Today's interview is with Rosa Walsh. She is a PSF brown belt who took gold at Pan's No-Gi. We got to talk about how she got started, how she stays in jiu-jitsu, and what it's like being one of the top females in jiu-jitsu. It was a really cool conversation, and I was really excited to get to talk to her. So I hope you enjoy.
My name is Rosa Walsh. I am a brown belt from Ireland. I represent pedigo submission fighting, and I started when I was 17, so about 8 years ago, in Cork in Ireland, and I started for a boy, unfortunately. Yeah, so that was the reason. It wasn't a very feminist reason to start, but I started just because that was one of my reasons. And then 7 or 8 years later, I'm still here training away, and he's not.
Yeah, and you're doing pretty good too, so that's kind of sick.
Yeah.
So, how'd you get started? Kind of like obviously for the what you just said, but like besides that, was there another reason that you got started in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I've also always been in kind of combat sports. Like I
Hmm.
boxed from the age of like 13 to 16.
Oh, okay.
Then I took up Thai boxing around 16, 17. And then in the same gym, there was jiu-jitsu classes going on. And I didn't really know what it was. So I was kind of a bit confused. Like this was just around the time Conor McGregor kind of shot to fame in Ireland. So everybody was on the MMA kind of train. So I started jiu-jitsu, got obsessed with it, did MMA for about 2 years, and then I just focused more on jiu-jitsu then.
What made you kind of stick with jiu-jitsu and focus on it? Like, what made you obsessed with it?
I think the biggest thing with jiu-jitsu that really it still does fascinate me is that in general, I think it was something that really exposes your character. Like it's something you can't really hide. You can't really put on like a facade. You can't really pretend to be anything that you're not because it really just like it will absolutely destroy any ego you have. It will absolutely just like break you down and also build you back up again. And I think it was something I'd never really experienced before, like having an outlet where it was like, especially when you're a teenager, you're trying to be all like one of the cool people and like trying to be something that maybe you're not. And for me now, it was a perfect place where it was like, okay, even with all this like the teenage angst and stuff, it was like the real Rosa does well in jiu-jitsu. Let's stick with it.
That's sick. And did you just kind of like find it hard to stick with it too, being a girl and especially over in Ireland, there's not probably as many schools with as many girls in it.
No, there's really not. And even in the last like year and a half, I've only seen like the rise of kind of female jiu-jitsu really in Ireland. But back when I started, like I was only 16, so like juvenile female wasn't even a thing.
Oh,
Like
geez.
I've always been fighting adults my entire jiu-jitsu career. So I think it was something like I'm very, very stubborn. And when I kind of got after the first class, I was like, I'm terrible at this, and the only way I'm going to get good at it is to keep going. So I think it just got into my head that I was like, just keep like kind of keep trying at it, and it'll take it so long. Like for me now, I have to figure it out by any means necessary. And then like 8 years later, I'm still trying to figure it out. Um, and with the gym that I was in, like it was a very like they were all kind of Brazilian men, so they
Hmm.
didn't really know. They're like, "What's this like Irish teenage girl doing here?" Yeah, very kind of puzzled. But it was just a place where it was like it didn't really matter that I was like maybe younger, that I was a girl. I was like I was just an athlete, I was just somebody on the mat, and that kind of transferred then towards like every other place that I went to. That was the standard I expected people to hold me to. Because unfortunately, with some gyms, it's like guys don't know how to roll with girls because they don't want to be like mean or anything like that. And like I never got that treatment. So now it's like if somebody's like, "Oh, I don't want to hurt you," whatever, it's like it makes me way more angry. So I kind of, so kind of like I was brought up in my jiu-jitsu career in like quite not like it was a very equal type of treatment that I got. So then I think that was one of the reasons why it was never a case of the boys were treated differently than me. It was like, I suppose in some way, Rosa is one of the boys.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And do you find that traveling around, you get the same kind of feeling from everybody? I know you said you haven't experienced people going super easy, but do you think that's just because you're at your level, or how do you think that is?
Um, I think it's a bit of both. Like, I think I've been very lucky with the gyms that I've trained at. Like, maybe like, I just have been lucky, but or maybe it's just like it's a culture that's now being started to be cultivated in a lot of gyms. But like, I think guys, especially like maybe like in the first couple of years, they don't really know what to do with like maybe a higher belt female because there's just
Hmm.
not many of us there, you
Yeah.
know. But but I think I would prefer somebody. This is terrible. I would prefer somebody to like play their A game at 100% than just like play dead. Because that's
Yeah.
even more frustrating. Because
That's
like with the size difference in a lot of situations, I can I can outwork people who play their A game, but I can't move somebody who's 90 kilos and not moving. If they're playing
yeah.
dead, that's harder for me to do my game.
Do you have any advice for kind of girls that are traveling around that are getting the like, oh, I'm just gonna play dead with you, and how to like get guys to kind of, bring it out of them?
Um, like for me now, I don't maybe deal with it the best way. Like for instance, now it's kind of like I just maybe give out to them.
Uh-huh.
I will finish the round and not roll that person again. Or as well, like somebody came up to me and one of the gyms I visited recently, they asked, they're like, I'm really sorry, I don't know how to roll with a girl, which I respect. I was like, I have no issue with that. But it was like, I was like, just treat me normally. Don't treat me as anything else. Treat me as a training partner. And I think the guys who, with maybe somewhat more secure masculinity, they will come over and ask you. They were like this guy a couple of days ago. He was like, "I'm really sorry if that was a bad role. I just have no experience rolling with a higher belt female. I really don't know what to do." So I think you will get people like that who will want to work with you, and like you can help them as much as you can help. They can help you. But I think it's a case of like picking your rounds to an extent. Like it's harder when I'm visiting gyms, maybe you don't get enough rounds to know everybody properly. But yeah, you can kind of lose the plot like I do at them, or you can just act maturely and say, I really don't think this is benefiting either of us when you're just acting dead. And like they'll have to suck it up. It's not on you if they're playing dead. It's you want something out of that round. And girls can sometimes be misconstrued as being bossy or being difficult. But like if a guy was to do that, like there would be no issue. And you were going down that alley as well, which unfortunately does happen. But like, don't be afraid to say to this person ever, you're being a terrible training partner. Like, what do you gain out of this by playing dead?
Hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
So just kind of call them out on it.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you appreciate that because girls are sometimes are too nice for their own good.
Hmm.
Where it's like take ownership of your training. Like somebody's being an idiot, like then say it to them, and then they have something that they've actual feedback to work on. Because girls are like, oh no, that was just they're the bigger person. Like I'm visiting their gym, but it's like no, it's your training as well, just as much as theirs. So it does take some practice though. And I've been doing this for the last like I've been traveling and training for the last year and a half, but like I have been in jiu-jitsu for nearly 9 years. So I think it took me a long time to get the courage to be like and not be like worried like, oh, what will they think about me afterwards? It's like, no, I'll be gone. I'll be on to the next gym before they can talk bad about me if they will.
Hmm. How are you like staying consistent with your training and traveling so much and like going to a different gym, and obviously they're gonna have a new system and what they're working on. How are you keeping your game strong?
Um, I do like watching a lot of matches.
Hmm.
I love watching like whenever any of the majors are on, I'll watch all of them. I'll watch like tape back. I do have a kind of a system in terms of like running with new people. So like if it's a lower belt, I will play let's say my B game. If it's a higher belt, I'll play my A game and stuff like that. When I'm visiting, I do try and get as many rounds as possible when I visit gyms, just because, like you said, I do travel and train so much. It is sometimes hard to stay consistent. Like I may get like a great like super fantastic like few days in a certain gym and then the next gym may not be as good, but it just gives me a chance to maybe work on my B game with like maybe more beginner people. And then in terms of strength conditioning, like I actually do like going to the gym a lot. So then with improv grappling, then it's nice that I have that as well. So like for instance, a few days ago, the day I got back from Liverpool, there was no gyms to train at, so I went to the gym instead. Still got a workout in, and I was still able to be active that day, even though I wasn't able to get in and actually train. You know.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it hard to kind of push through those workouts with all the travel you're doing?
I did, and especially now, like in the last couple of months, I've been doing a lot of teaching and stuff. So it's hard to be like, I've just been around jiu-jitsu for 2 hours, haven't got much training in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to kind of like why am I going back to the gym to do my own training? So it's definitely like tiredness has been a massive element in that because I haven't really been competing that much. But I think at the end of the day, like it is my job. I do love it, and I always said that to myself, and I've said it to Fionn as well because obviously we're doing the same thing. Is that once it stops being fun, once I stop wanting to do it, that's when I kind of have to reevaluate things.
Mm-hmm.
So like I do think that um my motivation can be like kind of up and down a bit, but at the end of the day, like I think discipline is the biggest thing that will always overpower that. Like even if I don't want to, like I'm going to be going to do my strength conditioning now in about an hour. Like once, like I don't really want to do that, but it's just a part of my day, so it's like I have to do it. You know, it's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable. So I do have a lot of non-negotiables, especially now this is my full-time job. So I think that is like whatever's going on in my head, it's like that can wait till afterwards. This is something that you have to do.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking at it more as like a business side, and this is something that you just have to get done for work, right?
Yeah, and then it's like it's this is like I'll always feel better after training, even if I don't want to do it. Even if like last night I trained and I was feeling not feeling great beforehand, it was like I have to push myself to do it. But afterwards, I was like, that was like I made the right choice, and I've never
Mm-hmm.
not made the right choice after a session. So yes, I look at it as like this is a part of like a business perspective, but as well as that, it's like at the other side, it's something that I love. And just right now, I'm feeling maybe I'm overtired or I'm something's going on in my personal life. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this session, but it's like you'll feel better afterwards. And that's like the mantra there, where it's like um push through it for the discipline, for the business side, but like it'll also make you feel better. So then on the mental health side, then it's like I have to overcome a challenge and I feel better afterwards, like I always do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're just kind of like pushing through these workouts and getting them done. On that topic, with the whole like kind of steroid and pushing through workouts and stuff, like what are your thoughts on that? I know like as a beginner you kind of see that and you wonder if that's the route you should go, but you have a better perspective on that when I was wondering.
Yeah, like I just think it's something that I doesn't align with my morals or my values. Like unfortunately it is quite common in the sport of jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
For me now, like in terms of my own perspective and then like the perspective of beginners, I think for me, I'd never do it. I never have, I never will. And that's just something that's aligned to my values. And I just think if I was to take it and if I was to win by taking it, that win will always be tainted in my brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's clean athletes who have gone out and done these things, and that's a true champion to me. There's athletes who are not clean and who've gone out and do things, regardless of whether they're testing in that federation or not. It's like, yeah, but you were enhanced. That's not the real athlete. You were enhanced for a variety of reasons that are a lot of BS in my opinion. But I think the clean athletes, and I know the clean athletes, everybody knows the clean athletes. They know the non ones clean and they know the clean ones. I just think a win by a clean athlete in a division where there are a lot of not clean athletes are is a lot more prestigious and a lot more admirable. Sets a better example for beginners coming into it, into the sport, because it's obviously become such a performance, like such a massive sport in the last couple of years that like it's so amazing to set a standard, to set a trend as a clean athlete who's still winning these gold medals and still winning these titles and
Mm-hmm.
not having to turn to an performance enhancing drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good to know because I know it's kind of popping up more and more now as time goes on. And for winning these medals and stuff, are you just building like these training camps with Heath? And I know you're over there with them right now.
Yeah.
Like, how does that look? Because you are moving around so much.
It is hard, and like it is hard as well because like I was in a gym for a long time in Ireland up until 2021, the end of
Hmm.
2021, where it was like such a routine. Like I'd see them every day, like I'd be there in day in day out training and stuff like that. So it was something that I grew up becoming accustomed to. And then when I was with the boys, with Heath and everybody, it's like, and I wasn't there all the time. It was I had to take a lot of accountability for my own training. Um, but it's hard to be a part of the team but not be there the entire time. So
Hmm.
like they'll always check up on me and like and everything, but it's just a case of like it's a bit lonely, you know, not having teammates that you see all the time and like excuse me, and like some competitions where they won't be there and I'll have to like run around warm up area to find a corner. So it's definitely a new experience for the last year and a half having to be a part of a team, have teammates, but not see my teammates every day.
Hmm. Do you feel like you'll probably end up moving out there and kind of being with them eventually, full time?
I, I'd love to. I just think the biggest thing with the US is the visa situation, you
Okay.
know? So it's a work in progress. And like friends I've made there are friends for life for sure. And I'll always have so much like history and so much admiration and everything for them. Just like logistically, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've kind of been popping up a lot on the flow space with Mike and Simone, and they're doing a lot of filming. What
Yeah.
is kind of balancing those like media days to now that we're starting to have media days for you guys? How do you do that?
It's so funny. I
Really?
can't take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's really cool because like for me, this only ever started. Like, I never expected it to blow up like this. Like, I started when I was like 16, 17. I was still in secondary school. I
Hmm.
was like finishing my leaving cert and everything. And then from then it was like only in the last, like, this is just coming up in around a year. Like, I quit my job in Ireland and went full time. And I was like, oh, look, I've got a few opportunities to do this. I had a bit of savings. I'll just compete, train around the world. Great. And then I kept getting more opportunities and opportunities. And then like obviously with everything with Flow, when everything with who's number one and stuff, kind of like snowballed. So
Hmm.
now it's like a year on and it's like this is great. Like so it's so such a cool experience because I've looked at everybody, I've watched everybody from afar for like the first 6, 7 years of my jiu-jitsu career. Like we used to stay up every single who's number one and it was like at 3 a.m. in Ireland, obviously with the time
Jeez.
difference.
Yeah.
So it was like who's number one weekend was like we're not going to sleep. So it's such a fantastic it's just so it's like it's a bit baffling to be honest that it's like now I'm experiencing it all from the other side. So I never really feel like I need to balance it because I'm just
Mhm.
having fun with it. Like
Yeah.
it's it's Simone and Mike. Like Simone is just the best person ever, and like she just like she doesn't do anything to do. She doesn't do any jujitsu or any type of thing, but she thinks it's hilarious. Like she's purely content and media. So I think she's a great skill of just making me feel comfortable. Like the filming that we did for the new season in Mount Vernon, like it was very informal and it's like it was very me. Like it wasn't a case of like you were told what to say or all this type of stuff. It was just like being filmed in like your comfortable surroundings. So it was so cool and like the press conference and everything where he's number one and like people asking questions and everything. So it's I'm just going along with it, see what happens, see how far I
That,
can go with it.
that's awesome. Do you think as an athlete coming up, you should kind of start to focus a lot more on your media and kind of your social presence now?
I think there's definitely a balance you need to have. Like there obviously with everything with flow grappling and with the media side of jiu-jitsu at the moment, it is very easy to get exposure for let's say your brand or like a niche that you fill. But at the end of the day, like it's the jiu-jitsu that keeps you there. And
That's
like for me now, I prefer to be known for my jiu-jitsu than my brand or whatever, or like just who I surround myself with. And I think it like very like for a lot of blue belts and like white belts and stuff, they do get a lot of exposure and followers and stuff from the stuff that they post, and like it is very easy to get recognition. But there is an element there of like don't that can't be the only thing because like people will move on to the next like most, I don't know how to even phrase this. They'll move on to the next like content thing, but like the jiu-jitsu, like that won't change. Like you can only get better with jiu-jitsu, like in terms of content and stuff. That should be always secondary to it.
Okay. And in terms of just focusing on jujitsu, like where do you think a beginner should start? What should be like? Should you learn passing? Should you learn your wrestling game first, or?
Um, I think I mean, that's a great question. I think overall you need to have a balance between like passing and playing guards. Like I jumped in to my first competition after 3 months, and it was like an eye opener. Like I got silver. It was in a blue and white belt mixed division. I don't know what the hell I was doing in a blue and white belt mixed division. This is the story. This is what like 2015 Irish female jiu-jitsu. There wasn't enough white belts, wasn't enough blue belts, so they just threw them in together. Um, but there was I literally only played guard, and that was the only time I've ever pulled guard in competition. But like, it's so important to know 50% guard, like playing guard, 50% passing, and then as the time goes on, gradually build towards open guards, like playing open guards, wrestling, judo, guard pulling itself. So I think starting with the 50% split between passing and playing guard is so important.
Okay. And you're just like, are you using any outside resources? Do you use instructionals? Do you just doing whatever your coach says, or what do you think?
Um, I get really bored with instructionals. I can't focus on them. I do like getting privates. I think I love just that more one-to-one focus on like my game itself. And like even coming up to a lot of shows and stuff last year, it was great to have people like break down my opponents in terms of like their techniques and stuff, because I never really had that before, and I never had the need to do it. I do like having people watch my matches and get critiqued on it. Like Fionn does that a lot. She's fantastic. Um, Spatch does, like Jacob Brooks from Pedigo. He had helped me a load with who's number one last year, and like with Grapple Fest and stuff. And then Fionn is just fantastic. So the two of them have been great in terms of like breaking down what I did well in that match, what I could do better and stuff, you know? So I think that has been the biggest thing for me. I also like watching matches, I love watching gi matches. I think I'm the only person in the entire world who likes watching gi matches. But yeah, I'm a massive I love watching the gi. But in terms of no gi then, um I do watch most I don't watch lots of I watch a lot of wrestling as well, like collegiate wrestling
Hmm.
in the US. Because it's so much better to watch than jiu-jitsu.
That's true. With the gi and kind of you said you watched the gi. I know we have the big talk of like the gi's dying. Gordon just gave out his free instructional. What do you think about that? Like, do you think the gi's dead? Do you think you should start with gi? You should start no gi now?
I think you should like look like realistically the no gi is taking off. It's where people make money, like all this type of stuff. I'm not like blind to that, but I think there's an element of like not even like history or like respect, but it's like the gi was the original jiu-jitsu, and like I think there's no harm in everybody starting off in the gi, even if you do one month of the gi and then move direct to Dogi for the rest of your life. I think the gi is just so much like history and so much tradition. There's like all the OGs of jiu-jitsu. They were all gi focused. I just I'm not as good in the gi. Like I'm not like blind to that either, but I'll always train it. I'll always compete in it. I'll always train in it. I just think there's something so beautiful about it that you just can't really match in Nogi.
The tradition kind of thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's something you kind of wish you knew when you were starting jujitsu that you know now and you're like, oh, if I knew that, I'd be so much better?
Um, I I think from the very start, it was like, especially as a girl, I think obviously in Ireland there wasn't many, so we didn't really know the extent to which jiu-jitsu could go. And like, don't be kind of afraid of your potential. And like, I think for a long time, I had like a lot, like one of my best training partners ever. He kept like back in Ireland, he was my coach for a long time. He kept like believed in me so much. He believed in me more than I did to an extent. Yeah, this is like back in like early 20s, and like he saw so much potential in me. He saw what happened in the last year in jiu-jitsu. He had predicted this for a long time, and I think it was because the situation that I was in, like in a gym that didn't have many competitors, I never had really any matches in Ireland because there wasn't any people there. But like that training partner that they had, he like never stopped like pushing me to go abroad, pushing me to go to these big shows, try to get me on these different shows and stuff. So I think it was a case of like, don't be afraid of leaving your, yeah, just don't be afraid of your potential, because like if I hadn't had that person, I'd be still in the gym in Ireland just showing up uh once a day, like never really like following my dream to an extent. And like I do believe to a certain extent, like obviously I'm not in that gym anymore in Ireland, but like that training partner, he was one of the reasons I got to where I was. Cause like I had somebody in my life who was like pushing me on, and like, okay, after we did, there was a match that I'd gone to the weekend before, Monday afternoon, he'd be helping me drill all these positions and stuff. So it was like having that person who believed in me no matter what, even though I should have believed in myself obviously first, was such a massive like catalyst to what has happened now. So I think that's what I'd say to myself 8 years ago. Is like, take take what opportunities are to come your way, and also don't be afraid of like being like your potential. Because like I think I'm the first Irish person ever to win European and Pan Nogi, and like that was unheard of. Like that was didn't even register in my brain. I'm just doing it for a hobby, and to an extent, I'm still doing it as a hobby, and I just keep getting opportunities that keep throwing my way. Like I don't know what's going on with jiu-jitsu. So like I'm just doing this for fun as well. But like that's the big thing I'd probably tell my belt self.
Okay, and you were in kind of a small gym started, and I think like with the rise of like the B team, even Daisy Fresh, you get these places that are like destinations and everyone thinks, oh, I have to go train there. But you seem to be doing great coming from just a small gym. How do you like manage that top level? Is it just with watching film and stuff or?
Um, I think like in general, like I'm quite a physical jiu-jitsu athlete, and I do think that the physicality of my game does help me a lot. Like in terms of technique, I'm good, but there's definitely more technical people than me in the world. But that kind of like that grit that comes from like obviously in my old gym in Cork in Ireland, we had like a very tiny gym, kind of very similar to the laundromat. It was like there's a massive, I think the grit and like the not even the hardship, like the physical hardship of that gym, where like it would be freezing. Irish weather is disgusting and horrible, and it was just like I think that has been one of the resilience that you build there. I think the resilience that you build in places like that really help you move on then in terms of like your, I suppose, my competition success. And then going to the laundromat, because I was there just before they moved, like I really that resonated with me a lot, because it was like I've done this. Like this isn't like, I don't care how manky the place is, like it's about the jiu-jitsu. And I always have believed that like all these super gyms are fantastic, and I've trained in a lot of them. They're amazing. But it's the athlete at the end of the day. Like the gym and the coach can only do so much. The athlete has to is the one that sits out on the mat, and
Yeah.
like and that like like just like it's whatever you the athlete is willing to put into the sport, whatever, that's what kind of is will like get gain success.
Hmm. Yeah, and with like putting all this stuff into the sport, you have your like highs and lows. Would you say was your biggest failure in jiu-jitsu, and what'd you learn from it?
Who's number one? That was the
Really?
best opportunity I've ever been given, and it was the saddest I've ever been after a loss. It was really interesting because like I I so it was November, like I hadn't been home in like months. I was in a completely different place. Um I was around people who I'd only met like fairly recently. Like this is only a couple of months into me being in Mount Vernon. And I think I learned so much because I gave the whole event a lot more prestige than it probably warranted. Like his number one was fantastic. It was so well, like everything was like just like a dream. But I think for me, I need to see it as me being equal to the event. Like I deserve to be here. I'm at this level, all this stuff. But for that entire day, I was fighting a black belt as well, like, so that was another element to it. I never fucking fight brown belts ever. It's always fighting black belts. But I think it was once again recognizing my potential is like I deserve to be here. This is normal. This is like any other day in the gym. This is just jiu-jitsu. And I didn't. And I really freaked myself out. I was so nervous beforehand. And I do get nervous, but not to that extent. And then afterwards, then not having like I did have a handful of my friends there, like some of the gym guys, but like it was just I was very off that entire day, and I only realized afterwards that the signs and stuff beforehand, like I didn't want to talk to any of my friends back home, didn't want to talk to my family beforehand because I was like so nervous. So I think that was the biggest failure, the biggest kind of challenge that I ever had to overcome, and I was so sad for so long afterwards, um, because it was like I'd been given this opportunity and then I kind of threw it away. So I definitely learned once again, really comes back to self belief. Is that like just you deserve to be on the stage. They wouldn't have asked you if you didn't deserve it. So that was, yeah, that was probably it.
How are you kind of managing these like self-belief things? Are you like doing mental preparation? Like I know people meditate and stuff, but what are you doing?
Um, I have a really good group of friends, like both outside of jiu-jitsu and inside of jiu-jitsu. Um, I think for me, it's that like I need to trust in my training. I need to train so hard that like that's that like I can rely on the training, and I didn't because I was doing a big cut, and like I just all this kind of comes across as probably excuses, but like I just didn't have any belief in what I'd done was enough. So I think for me in previous times I've competed and stuff, it was like I train for every possible outcome, and that is like I need to have the physical preparation put in, and then it's like mental preparation will be fine. Once again, like for but then like on the other side, like Fionn has been fantastic. Like whenever I'm around her, it's so weird. I feel like we kind of like whenever we're like together before competitions and stuff, like we'll always do really well because like we just put it like we're just she just is a fantastic um she's hilarious. Like she just puts me in a great mood, and we get on so well. And once I'm in that kind of mood of like positivity, of like I'm laughing and stuff like that, once I'm having fun, then I do really, really well. I think that's something I didn't have as well for his number one is that like I didn't have anybody who I could mess with beforehand because everybody's so serious, you know. They're all like
Yeah.
pacing around, they're pacing, they're like just terrifying, they're like just going a bit mad, and I just think that's something that has always helped me is like coming up to the like the day of or the day of the event. I never really worry about mental preparation because I'm just training. That's all I focus on. But the day of is always something now where I need to have a group of friends that I get on well with. Usually it's just Fionn, sometimes some of the other girls as well. So that's the biggest thing is just having the right people around me on the day of.
Okay. And talking about having the right people around, are there three like unknown people in the jiu-jitsu world that have really changed kind of your life?
Obviously Fionn is one.
Yeah,
She's not really unknown. I
that's true.
think in yeah, I think in Pedigo, I think Spatch and his wife Elisa, they're just the best. I think it's something about like the Aussie humor. Like
Hmm.
no offense or anything, but Americans don't really get my humor at all. It's the same with Fionn. Like she has the same issue as well. But like with the Australian humor, we got on so well. And then his wife Elisa then just took me under her wing. Like I was there for like 3 months last year, and like we became so close. And like she was like she's not that much older than me, but like she became like my mom and everything because I was there on my own, you know. And I definitely needed a friend like that. So I think the two of them, the two of them have been so great because like for me, I've always had this fear of like, um, oh, if I lose, I have no value. It's like
Hmm.
nobody's going to want me to be on their team if I keep losing. And but for them now, like I lost when I was there, I won when I was there, um, and it was like nothing was different. It was like we still want you on the team. We're still mad about you. You're still one of our very good friends, you know. So I think that's something now that the two of them have really taught me is that it's like you still have value no matter what.
Hmm.
So that's two. So that's those Spatch and Lita. The other person then is from Essential Jiu Jitsu, Marcus Johnson. He runs the gym with JT or for JT, and only kind of knew him as a friend of a friend. Like he
Mhm.
cornered Fionn for ADCC, and like what has gone out of his way for the last year to like he's somebody else now who's helped me with my jiu-jitsu is that like has made me like has gone out of the way to like help me with anything I need. He did my the stuff on the back of my rash guard for his number one. He printed it all, like put me up for one of the competitions last year, like helps me with the actual technical jiu-jitsu, one of the most technical people I've ever met in my life in terms of jiu-jitsu. And it's like it's nice having somebody like that. He's like an older brother who like wants nothing but the best for me. And I think it's somebody like that now who never like who didn't need to, not on my same team. Only met him a couple of times, but just somebody's gone out of their way just to be my friend, just to show that they care about me. That has been really, really monumental.
Are you just finding that these people are kind of falling into your life, or are you seeking them out? It sounds like that you're getting really lucky with your groups.
So lucky. Like I do wonder how this is all happening because um I think if they just fall into my life at the right time. Like when I left Ireland last year, it was a bit of a rocky spot personally. And then in the first couple of months of being there, like I was there for 2 months to start from April and May last year. And like the people that I met were just like it was just like it was just mind blowing. I was like, how are these wonderful people coming into my life all at the same time? So I just kind of proved that I made the right decision last year by going. And yeah, I've been very, very lucky. I have a wonderful group of friends.
That's awesome. And are you like, when you left, how did you kind of balance that like mind game of, oh, I'm leaving where I'm from to just go see if this career is going to work out?
It didn't really bother me, like to an extent. Like I had a lot of stuff kind of going on back in Ireland. And then when I left my job, it was like just throwing everything at this. And like, what at the end of the day, like I am a secondary school teacher. So like if I screw all of this up and I never get to compete again, I can get a job in Ireland on like tomorrow, So I always have that fallback plan. So even when I left last year, it was like, I'm just going for this 100% to see what happens. But if I screw it all up, I have something to come back to. And I think there was the element of safety there that like I was lucky in the fact that like I could do this 100%, but I also had plan B in case.
So do you think having a plan B in jiu-jitsu, since it's so hard to have a career, is kind of important to help push you?
I think it is. I know a lot of people don't think so because they're like, no, you need to just throw everything at plan A and hope for the best, which is fine. And it does work for a lot of people. But like, I did my college degree, I did all of that while I was like a purple belt, doing purple belt. So I never really, it was never a case of like, I need to do this and then I'll go and be a jiu-jitsu athlete. It was just like, I already had this. I was doing this for 3 years coming up to last year. And then it got the opportunity. I was like, I can stop, I can quit this, still get a job regardless, and then go for it. And for me now, if I do think it's good as well for beginners. It's like if somebody gets injured, but like injured, like especially now with the kid superstars, it's like if somebody, if God forbid, like one of them get injured, they always have a fallback plan, and I don't know if that's really like a culture that's being created anymore. Like I am lucky that I do have that fallback plan, but I think a lot of people they need to just throw everything at plan A.
So it kind of just depends on the person, you think?
I think so. I think so.
Okay, and with all these like young jiu-jitsu guys coming up, like these blue belt Kolabate guys, when do you think you should start to decide if you like are ready for a pro career? Should it be when you get like your purple belt, or if you're starting and that should be how you start going into it? What are your thoughts?
Great question. I think once again it really depends on the person. Like for me now, I was on invitations and stuff as a purple belt and like as a blue belt and everything. But the time will like the opportunity will arise, like it did for me. And then you can like I was going for it. And like there's people now, like the Coles of the world, who have been superstars from yellow belts. And obviously it's a natural progression for them, being in a gym like AOJ, getting the exposure that they do, having the technical skills and the titles that he does, that it was a natural progression to go from that to where he is now.
Hmm.
So I think it really depends. Like for me, the opportunity just arose as a brown belt. and I had to go for it.
Okay, that's good. And when it comes to kind of finding like those places to bring opportunities, how are you looking for a coach? Like when you were like, I'm leaving Ireland to go find someone, what were your thoughts when you were like, I'm going to go to Pedigo and work with them?
Um, I didn't really have any. Like, I didn't really expect to find a gym. Like, I was still affiliated like under IBJJF and stuff with my old gym when I left to compete at Pans last year. So like it just kind of like I didn't really expect anything. Like I went to Essential first, then I went to Pedigo, and then I went back to Essential. So like it was just the case of I just wanted to go training. Like there was no like ulterior motive being like sourcing out a new coach. It was like I just wanted like I had made friends with Fion. I had made friends with the guys in Pedigo. It was like great training everywhere, and that's all I really wanted. So I think then it happened that I needed somebody to represent for Grapple Fest last May.
Hmm.
And I was talking to Heath about it, and he was like, "Yeah, no worries, absolutely, no problem at all." And that kind of happened then. So there was nothing really like I went with the intention of like I'm finding a new gym, finding a new coach. I was like just going with the like seeing where I could get the best training and where was the best kind of I suppose value for money because like New York is so expensive to live in and stuff, and Mount Vernon's in the middle of nowhere. So there was a lot of factors in terms of where I wanted to go. And then I was in California for a bit last year. So we really just kind of went for like, look, see what happens.
It's been very go with the flow for you, and
Yeah,
it's
it
all
had to
worked
be like
out.
my week really like I haven't had the same like work week to an extent in the last year. So it's kind of like you just gotta take everything with a pinch of salt and like take everything in your stride.
That's pretty sweet that it's just working out.
Yeah.
For like athletes that are coming up, how do you deal with kind of, making money and supporting yourself? And do you,
Um, I'm very kind of thrifty in that way. Like I have great sponsors like who have helped me out amazingly. Like obviously with Parry, they're fantastic. Parry Athletics, I'm wearing the top. Let's plug it. Yeah,
there we
there you
go.
go. Improv have been fantastic. Three Fools Coffee, it's a coffee shop in Cork. So the three of them have been fantastic. I do a lot of obviously seminars and privates. They really help out. What else do I do? I do a lot of like virtual assistant work. So like I answer emails for people. I do a lot of the work on that. I work with Submit the Stigma, which is Aaron Hurl's mental health campaign. So I do a lot of social media stuff for them. So like I do have a lot of like avenues in terms of how I make money, but it really comes down to but I travel very kind of frugally. The only thing I really buy is flights, really.
Flight. Okay. So you're still kind of working while you're traveling. Okay.
Yeah,
You've
because it's
kept
all
the
online.
online stuff. Do you think that's a good outlet for kind of traveling grapplers right now?
I think it is. And I think it's something now that like people have the opportunity to go and travel and train and stuff. Like other than unless you're like a superstar in jiu-jitsu who can do seminars all over the world. Like I came home for 3 months, so I coached for the 3 months in Ireland to make money. I think this is definitely an easier stream of stuff to do, of stream of like revenue, by doing online work because you can do it in like any time zone. You can do it in your own time as well. So I've been very lucky with that. So definitely is the right way to go.
And then on seminars, what's your thought on seminars versus just selling an instructional? Are you going to do that? Is that something that you see as another outlet?
Absolutely. Like seminars, I remember when I came back from wherever I was in December, back to Ireland, I just put up a post and I was like, I'd love to come guest coach or whatever in Ireland when I'm back, blah, blah, blah. And like every weekend from January, February, March, I had it completely booked up.
Wow.
So like I never like I didn't ask for any of them really. I was like, oh, I'm available if you want or whatever. And then like loads of gyms reached out. So I was very lucky with the seminars. Then in terms of instructionals, absolutely. I think it's another like I've got like I'm supposed to be filming one with Jiu Jitsu X towards the end of the year. And then there's another other streaming service as well. But it's once again another really convenient stream of revenue that you don't have to do much for. You don't have to do much work. It's like if it sells, then you get like a portion of it or whatever.
Yeah, just have it out and ready to go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. And then for the seminars, I know that this might be kind of a boring question, but because you are not from the US, when you come out and travel here, like how are you balancing that with like accepting money and payment and with visas and work visas? Like what does that look like as someone who wants to come international to the US and teach?
I have only done seminars in Europe, so I've never
Oh,
done
okay.
seminars in America. So there's a line there between like accepting money, like obviously not being on the correct visa and stuff. So I've yet to do a seminar in America, but then in the summer I'll be doing some in New Zealand and Australia with Fionn. So that's yeah, it's just kind of like I've been looking at like obviously you have to go and get a different visa for the US for Australia and New Zealand, but yeah, I haven't done any seminars in the US yet.
Okay. And then with the visa thing, like is that something that athletes just need to be ready for to deal with that aren't from the US, and kind of how do you navigate dealing with that whole thing?
Like a lot of like super gyms and stuff, like a lot of those gyms, they will provide athlete visas for their athletes who are coming in from Europe or whatever.
Hmm.
It's a little bit more trickier to do, obviously, when you're not more of a well-known athlete, because they do have quite a strict criteria about like you need to be the best in your sport in like your nation or your country or whatever, and then you can progress towards it. And then with jiu-jitsu in Ireland, it's so kind of small, it's so unknown. There isn't really many facilities to back up that, okay, Rosa is whatever grappler in Ireland, whatever, she has the skills to be able to go and pursue this in the US. So you need all these kind of like backings from different federations. There isn't any in Ireland. So it's a work in progress. A lot of people though that I've met in the US are just from the US. They have moved around to different gyms. So like there's one or two, obviously Fionn being one, Peyton, Letcher being one, a friend who went from South Africa. So like she is somebody else now who was the top of her sport in her own country and moved then to the US. But other than that, I haven't really met much Europeans in the
Huh.
US that have done
Okay.
it, that have gone and done it because of the visa. That is definitely a tricky thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective that we don't really get over here. Um,
Yeah.
are you going to open a gym? Is that kind of an end goal to have your own facility, like big spot in Ireland?
I don't know. It's I'm not really sure yet. I haven't really thought about like the long game. Like I do love what I'm doing now, like just like going traveling around the world, doing seminars. Like I've one coming up the end of the year in like Canada, which I've never been to Canada before. So at the moment, like I'm 25, so like I do have quite a bit of time before I kind of have to chill out on the competing and stuff. So I think like as my experience in the jiu-jitsu world and the competition world grows, then I'll think about that then. But at the moment, I'm gonna just keep traveling and see what happens.
It's a nice life.
Yeah.
It's easy going. Yeah. Then can I ask you like what BJJ really means for you?
I think jiu-jitsu was like just a load of fun for like the first about 6, 7 years of my life. And then like I had a bit of a rocky spot personally about 2 years ago. And it was kind of just after COVID, like obviously in Ireland, the lockdowns are so bad.
Yeah.
So I like we lost it and then like everything else kind of went downhill from there. Then when it came back, I saw it in more of its true light, what it meant to me then, because it was an outlet. It was like a place there where I could like I suppose in some ways just like forget what was going on off the mat. It's just some place now where it's like it's my true self, like kind of what I came back to about like it really shows your character. And like sometimes in also in life or in the jiu-jitsu world there's massive element of like the persona of someone of the athlete rather than the actual true person. And I just think in for me in jiu-jitsu is that like I can never be a persona because jiu-jitsu will just expose it. Like the
Yeah.
real Rosa's on the mats, and like I can't ever pretend to be anything that I'm not.
Okay, that's a good one. And then what are like your goals for this year?
This year, Nogi Worlds. It's
Nogi
always
World.
like Nogi Worlds. I wanted so badly last year, and I just competed and trained way too much beforehand, and like I didn't make it a proper goal. It was like I just didn't prepare properly for it. So Nogi Worlds is the one. Even though it's in December, that's the one I've always wanted. Then I'll quit jiu-jitsu. I want to mess.
There you go. Are you going to go for trials also next year?
Yeah, that'll be the start of next year. Because
Okay.
with the European trials, the first one the females don't get a ticket. So the second one is when you get the ticket then for it. So that'll be kind of maybe February or January of 2024.
Okay, that'll be exciting to watch. And then,
Yeah.
like, kind of where people can find you and where to see all your stuff.
Like my Instagram is probably the biggest place. And then I don't even know.
You'll
Just
be
my
on
Instagram.
the Daisy Fresh season.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
There you go.
Yeah. So every Wednesday, for the next couple of weeks, the season 3 is going to be coming out like episode by episode. So I'm not exactly sure what episode that I'll be in right now, but I think they're on just see episode 2 is after coming out, and that's on the Plug Grappling and YouTube, and the Plug Grappling YouTube. Then
Sweet.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Rosa.
Thank you
If
so
there's
much.
anything else you want to tell anyone, feel free.
Well, I think that's all.
Okay, sweet. Well, I appreciate that. It was cool kind of hearing from the female perspective of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah. Thank you
All
so much.